Okay. All right, we're gonna start now. We're missing a few people, but hopefully they'll be able to hop on, even if it's just a little bit late. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is our August Hype webinar, which is Heighten Your Professional Edge, brought here by the Chamber. It is a complimentary event, thanks to our sponsor, Advantage Outsourcing, their annual sponsor. And then today we have Amanda Walls, who is a QuickBooks ProAdvisor with Kemper CPA Group. So I will let her take away. Everyone, you're more than welcome to keep your cameras on the entire time. You do not have to. I will turn mine off. But you can keep it on if you want, even if just for a little bit. But Amanda, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Walls, working here at Kemper CPA Group. I want to thank everybody in the chamber and Nicole for having us here today. Just a quick intro about Kemper. We are an accounting firm here in Effingham. Kemper started about 60 years ago in a small little firm in Mount Carmel. And since then we've grown, and we are one of the top 100 accounting firms in the country. And we have offices in 4 different states, in the Midwest and in California. And I've been with the firm since 2006 and been a ProAdvisor since out of college. And so I've worked with all kinds of different businesses, from farmers to boutiques to manufacturing to warehousing and everything in between. Of these, probably about 75% of the clients that I directly work with or more use QuickBooks in one form or another. So that's kind of where my specialty has come. I've been a ProAdvisor for 15 years, and I've also had certifications in other softwares. I started out just doing software, and now I'm kind of more on the accounting side. So I kind of know a little bit about both, enough to be dangerous everywhere, I guess. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to shut my camera off because I will be self-conscious the whole time if I keep looking at my own face. So we'll talk a little bit about, go through a couple slides, and then we'll jump into the software. Okay, just a little bit about accounting software. Are computer programs that assist accountants, bookkeepers, business owners to help record and report financial transactions. That sometimes it's called an AIS, which is an accounting information system. It's also known as ERPs, enterprise resource planning systems, which those kind of encompass a larger scope, including an AIS and additional modules and divisions such as HR, specifically manufacturing, warehouse management, customer relations, field service, things like that. So we'll talk about the benefits of accounting software first. Of course, it keeps your finances organized. As we mentioned, accounting software helps you balance the books. It allows you to manage your income, track expenses, reconcile bank accounts. Having all this information in one place makes it easy to know exactly where your business stands, to run insightful reports that allow owners to make informed business decisions, and run, customer and sales to spot income trends, and use that information to make, smarter inventory purchases, sales and marketing strategies, and a whole wealth of information. It also helps manage contacts, time tracking, inventory, invoicing. It helps you run your business with project management, budgeting. It also makes it easy to send invoices, and most apps support like payment gateways, so you can accept payments and apply those to invoiced customers. Certainly, my favorite reason for having accounting software is because it makes tax season easier. Having all that information in one place makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes, winter time, February, March, April. Accounting software gives you the ability to easily run reports like profit and loss, general ledger, which you always need, or you need to give to your accountant to file your taxes. they let you track your deductions, and most of them have like payroll tax support also, which is also super helpful for most businesses. The software increases your financial visibility, which provides value information about expenses, where you and your employees are spending your time, so you can know where your money's going, where you need to cut expenses, or how to streamline, where you need to streamline some processes. And then the software also simplifies the complex accounting transaction. Almost all accounting systems will use a double entry, where every entry to one account has a corresponding entry to another. These are, in accounting terms, these are our debits and our credits. And that helps keep the accounts balanced. What the software does is it makes these transactions easier by automating the corresponding entry, eliminating the dual entry into registers, which in turn reduces errors. It makes, in most cases, the software makes the entry more user-friendly also. So it handles all these journal entries, the debits and the credits, the actual accounting functions in the background. So you don't have to have an accounting degree to, to have a balanced set of books and to easily run reports. So there's two different types, basically, of accounting softwares. There are batch entry and real-time. So batch entry processing is more ideal for large volumes of data. It increases efficiency of like data entry when there are multiple users entering the same types of data. But then there are, in a batch system, there are delays of reviewable results of that data collection. It's entered in groups of similar transactions and requires multiple modules in order to be posted to over a specified date range. And then those module batches get posted to the common general ledger. For example, like you'll have accounts payable transactions are entered in one module, AR in another, payroll in a third, and so on and so on. If you invoice like a large number of customers daily, you might have do one AR batch in a day. Maybe you pay bills once a week, so you do that weekly, and then payrolls run bi-weekly. Then you can do these batches on their own time, and then they can be posted to the general ledger in different intervals. They can handle, a batch system can handle a huge amount of transactions, and they're also usually much more expensive. Sage ACPAC is one that I'm familiar with. I was a certified consultant for that, but there's also Dynamics, SAP, NetSuite. These are large scale batch accounting systems. Not a lot of people around here use them, but some do. We do have a lot of businesses here that do use it, although it's probably more small businesses are geared toward QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is a real-time processing system. That's when every transaction is reflected in the master file or the general ledger at the moment it's entered into the system. So reports and analysis of the data as a whole is readily available immediately. This is very tedious for the actual software. So when large volumes of data are entered at once, it can sometimes be too much for the actual software to handle. Now, if you're writing 5 checks a day, that's not large amounts of data. So most smaller real-time processing is usually sufficient for a lot of small businesses with less transactional needs. So this is QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Zoho, Xero, and the similar softwares. I've got, now I primarily focus on QuickBooks and its family of products, and that's kind of what we're here to discuss today. So computer systems in general, not just accounting systems, but computer systems are offered either as an on-premise solution or a cloud solution. It's also called SaaS, called the SaaS, which is software as a solution. So the on-premise is where you either take the CD or you download the software from the internet. It's actually installed physically on your hard drive. Of course, the cloud is where it's installed by the software providers on their own network, and they share access through the internet. So these are, we won't go through these line by line, but the main differences are you have on premise, you have complete control, but you also have to maintain the equipment. And of course, in the cloud, all you basically have to do is run like Chrome or IE or Edge or whatever the interface is. And on-premise solutions in the long run generally are a little bit cheaper just because there's not monthly fees constantly. But the cloud solutions are predictable. Security, people have different views. With small businesses, data breaches are not as likely. And you can literally unplug it from the internet. But cloud solutions are hosted by data centers, which employ security measures that are beyond the affordability of most businesses, and therefore are generally considered safer in the cloud. QuickBooks offers both types of these solutions, QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. Online is the cloud version, obviously, because it's online. The premise solution is QuickBooks Desktop. Then there's also sort of like a third hybrid option where the actual desktop product is hosted by a third party, and therefore it's also accessible from anywhere. And QuickBooks Online and Desktop both have some of the same functionality, but are actually two independent programs. While there are abilities to convert from one to another, it's not a simple task, and not all information will go both ways. So they truly are separate. And you never want to go like back and forth and back and forth. QuickBooks Online was originally designed for very, very small businesses that desired easy online access, and web-based online has evolved into a pretty solid small business accounting application. It's easy to use and can be accessed from any location on any type of device. It offers integration with banking websites to download transactions and automate bank recs. This can be an excellent feature when used properly, but I always caution people using this functionality to be sure to do it properly and don't just let everything dump into the software, because this can cause really big headaches and even duplicate income or duplicate expenses. And it also can kind of throw a large number of transactions into uncategorized income or expense, and then that information just becomes useless. One thing I always stress to my clients is that the information that you get out of any kind of accounting software is only as good as the information that goes into it. So I stress this all the time when I'm either training a new client or a new user, or reminding my current clients when I'm looking at useless data that, hey, we got to make sure you're paying attention to what's going in here, where it's going. That dump of banking transactions, super nice, but only if it's useful information. And if it all goes to uncategorized expenses, that really doesn't tell us anything. So I digress. That's my soapbox for the day on that. But QuickBooks Online features also will vary from plan to plan. So here's sort of a summary of what options are available for different editions. All the versions allow you to access your data from anywhere, all of the online versions, where you can invoice customers, accept payments, track your income and expenses, make journal entries, reconcile bank statements. One thing I do not suggest is QuickBooks Self-Employed, just because it's a very, very cheap software, but also you don't even have the ability to reconcile a bank account. And as accountants, if you can't reconcile your bank account, then the information that you're giving us isn't really useless, and we're going to need to see the bank account anyway so that you can verify these numbers. So also, one quick thing about online is none of them offer sales orders. It's just not a feature that online has available yet. It probably will be in the next few years, but so if that's a function that's required, QuickBooks Online, it would not be a good fit. Where it is a good fit are for small businesses with basic accounting needs, for accounting for expenses, reconciling, invoicing customers. Plus is, everyone gets a little bit more robust. So simple start, I also don't really recommend either. There's no AP function, which not everybody uses, but that's fine. Essentials is a good, very small system, but there's no location or class tracking. You can't track inventory. Plus is probably the most popular one that I see, because you can have multiple locations, class tracking, budgets. And then advanced is for literally more advanced, more users. You can have up to 25 users. It has batch invoicing, business analytics, more customizable user permissions, which in Plus you can say, okay, you can have 5 users, and then we have one, admin user, and then you can assign roles to other users. So we could say, user 1 can get accounts payable, user 2 can do accounts receivable. Where in advanced, you can kind of limit that even more. You can do parts of accounts payable. They can enter bills, but they can't print the checks. Just things like that are more in the advanced version. But QuickBooks Online has all those different options. And there are just a couple advantages over desktop version. With sales tax, that rate can be based on customer addresses, but you're still not able to separate income based on customer address or location. That's only for sales tax purposes, which is kind of great for like retailers that sell online. Very cool. QuickBooks Online handles that very well. There's mobile apps, there's multiple platforms. There's a lot of integrations that work with QuickBooks Online. Huge, huge plus. There are still some, I use it quite often. There are still some outages, and customer support leaves a lot to be desired. That's kind of into it in general. But that's why they push ProAdvisors, like people like me and a couple others in my office that work with it often. Like they don't wouldn't do very well with support, and most of their support is not in America. So it kind of falls to us, and we're happy to help. But one thing you'll find I will try not to soapbox it, but and I think most accountants are bigger fans of QuickBooks Desktop. It's just extremely more feature rich. It's, in my opinion, it's easier to use, but it can also, there's so many features that this can kind of make the software seem overwhelming to end users. And we'll get into that, and you'll kind of see kind of how cluttered the screen can get. It's not the prettiest thing, but functionally, I think it's a better solution. But we'll kind of touch on the ups and downs for advantages and disadvantages of each. So QuickBooks Desktop has 3 different options: Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, depending on how many users and what kind of functionality you need. Pro, you can have up to 3 users, Premier up to 5, Enterprise up to 40. Pro will suit, probably 75 to 80% of the business that I use QuickBooks Pro. It's sufficient. You can add payroll. It has large database of reports, way more than online. It does have the sales reports options. You have advanced inventory functionality if you need it in Enterprise. There's more customizations available with invoices. All your forms, your sales forms, your receipts, you can customize that kind of thing. I feel like better than you can in online. But not a lot of people use that anyway. That's just kind of a fun thing that dorky accountants do. We just mess with how those sales forms work. Premier is kind of best for niche businesses because it has industry specific options and reports. So there's a contractor edition, manufacturing and wholesale, a retail, nonprofit, professional services, and accountant. And then the disadvantages, of course, to online is it's not accessible all the time anywhere unless you do use a hosting solution, which of course is another monthly fee. But we find that can be a really good solution for people who want to use QuickBooks Desktop rather than online, but also want that access from anywhere. it can be a really cool hybrid solution for a lot of clients. It's very neat. The disadvantages are, desktop is it's a Windows only. There is a QuickBooks Mac version, but it's different. It's not QuickBooks Desktop. It doesn't work the same. Those are quite different. There's the customer support still not good. Intuit just kind of sucks at it. But those are the main three additions, or the only three additions of QuickBooks Desktop, and the kind of different features of each. For big databases, enterprise is definitely the way to go. Comparing pricing, in general, the 20 to 50, $25 to $50 a month seems pretty cheap, but when you look at it in the long run, over a year, you can buy Desktop Pro one user for $300, where you'll spend, $600 with QuickBooks Online Essentials, which is kind of the very, very basic, higher than Simple Start, which I also don't recommend. And then they all grow from there depending on how many users and what kind of functionality you need. And so just kind of a quick rundown of what it's going to cost you a year for each of these different software. So QuickBooks Desktop Pro is the most common, $300 a month, and then QuickBooks Online Essentials or Plus. These are annual costs. So up here is monthly. Obviously, QuickBooks Desktop is not priced monthly. It's just you purchase the software and then you own that license. And the QuickBooks recommends upgrading that every actually 3 years. So you can buy this $300 software one time and then you're good for 3 years. So technically it could be a $100 a year investment. Whereas this is always going to be a monthly fee. Besides, they'll give you like the first 30 days free. And again, these are full price. What I have here on this chart, QuickBooks is always having, if you get online right now, you can see QBOs, it's being offered 50% off for the first 3 months right now. QuickBooks Desktop is offered at $199 rather than $299 right now. So those are kind of almost always happening. So this is just full price, full blown retail, but and then payroll is a completely different pricing structure, and each version varies based on the number of employees. So I'm going to show you quickly just the pricing options. So this is QuickBooks Payroll Online. So there's different options. These are monthly fees, plus in the little fine print here, it's so much per employee per month also. So the online payroll seems to be a little bit more expensive. And then here is the desktop payroll, which is similar monthly fees, but the per employee per month fees are a little bit lower. And there's the different options. Enhanced is usually what we suggest. Assisted is where QuickBooks will file your tax returns for you, which I'm on the fence about, of course, because that's kind of my job. But QuickBooks doesn't know your business. They don't know if you have any issues, if you have things you want to make changes to. It's very, very hard in the assisted payroll. I know we ran into this a lot with the employee retention credits, the FFCRA credits with payroll taxes. That was not fun to deal with assisted payroll. So that it's not always recommended, but it's an option to save time for people. So now we will, if I haven't timed out yet, we'll get into, this is QuickBooks Online. I'm not sure if anybody's ever seen it or never seen it, or we'll get into both softwares briefly and just kind of do a quick rundown. This is a sample company. This is a dashboard. So these are shortcuts to popular places in the software. And then the different modules here are listed on the left. So our dashboard and our business overview. So this is giving us just a quick, pretty little charts of profits and losses, expenses in the last month, invoices that are overdue, or invoices that we've received that are, I still got those checks sitting on my desk here. And then sales trends over, the last 30 days. This is a sample company, so we're not very good about keeping up with anything in here. Then there's a banking, and this is where You can see all your transactions in different accounts. We're on our checking, we got a savings. We also have a credit card. This is like a register, like kind of like when you have a checkbook and you have that little paper with the shaded opposite lines, this is where it keeps track of everything in there. And then we have a sales section, which we can look at our overview of sales. We can all sales, invoices, and then our list of customers, which these are all sample customers. You can run, create payments, create invoices, any charges. This is kind of where the transactional data lives. And then also expenses. So these are things we spent money on, either on a credit card, we've entered expenses, we've entered bills or purchase orders. Then we also see all our list of vendors. These are people we pay. Customers pay us, we pay vendors. That seems pretty basic, but it's amazing how many people don't know the difference. And then in QuickBooks, both here and in QuickBooks Desktop, the terminology, like people think they send their customers a bill or they receive an invoice. Well, in the QuickBooks, it's opposite. Invoices always go out to customers. So if you see invoice entry, that is specifically for customers. Bills are bills that you pay. So bills go through vendors, invoices go to customers. Projects is a little bit more advanced. I don't think we really have that in our sample company much. Then payroll we won't get into. Reports are pretty basic in QuickBooks Online. You can obviously always run a profit and loss. You can run a P&L, an AR aging summary, and some more similar reports here. And they're grouped by kind of type, which is similar to QuickBooks Desktop, and we'll show you the difference there. So these are our overview, our business reports. And then these are accounts, our AR, who owes us. And then our sales and customers, specifically, sales by customers, sales by products, inventory detail, that kind of information. And then who we owe, of course, our accounts payable, our expenses, vendors, our check details. So literally what's on the checks, sales tax if you have a retail business where you have to charge your customer sales tax, and then payroll, of course. And then taxes, same kind of thing. There's usually, this is a sample company, so there's sales tax, and you may also have payroll taxes here. Mileage is just very simple. Here we can track our mileage with the app on our phone, or you can add them manually. This you would obviously use on your cell phone, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little feature that QuickBooks Desktop does not have, not this simply anyway. And then our accounting group, which is of course our chart of accounts. These are, if you have any other apps connected, and like I said earlier, I think there's over 600 different apps that work with QuickBooks Online, which can be very cool. Kind of overwhelming too, but if there's like one or two specific things that you're looking for, quickly, if I go back here, you can see it does streamline and works directly with Amazon Business and Square, where it will like just automatically bring in your transactions into your QuickBooks. So that saves you a lot of time there, or can save you a lot of time there. So when you're starting with QuickBooks in either online or desktop, this is your core thing, your chart of accounts. This basically has to be set up first. And then inside, after these are your balance sheet accounts, your income, profit and loss accounts, and they're kind of sorted as such. We won't get too into the accounting 101 stuff that I usually do in the basic class, just because we have very, very limited time. But so this is our assets, our liabilities, and our equity, and then our income and expenses. And then definitely the difference of our income and our expenses gives us our profit or our loss. And we can quickly run these reports on different time periods. So we are looking at this year to date. This is what a profit and loss looks like. We can see design income we've made, discounts given, and then these are our costs, our landscaping, like our job material costs, our labor costs, pest control costs, and then, okay, wait, these are still income accounts. And then down here we have cost of goods sold, which are things that we spend up here, which again, it's a sample company, it's not ideal. So our gross profit before our regular overhead and other types of expenses is 10,000. And then we can go through and see all of our regular expenses. One thing I love about QuickBooks that's not so easy in other types of softwares are the drill down capabilities. So anytime your mouse moves to like this little hand, that makes it a link. So I can report on this account. So if I want to look at this $640, I can see exactly what makes up that $640. These three payments we've put under our accounting fees. And from here, say, oh, well, that's $75. That was books by Bessie. That's not an accounting fee. I can drill directly to the actual base transaction. So this is the bill that was entered. And this is why it's showing up in that category, because you selected it here, when really this should be office supplies. So I can change that on the fly here. One thing I love about QuickBooks and dislike about batch accounting softwares is I can fix things on the fly. One thing I don't love about QuickBooks is you can change things on the fly. So we can create a mess of this quite easily. QuickBooks is super, super user-friendly, but it also super, super lets you change and make mistakes pretty easily too. So again, like I said earlier, QuickBooks is what you get out of it, what you put into it. So if your entries are good, I mean, your end results, that data that you see is going to be great too. Just make sure that you know how to use the software. That makes a big difference. Especially with QuickBooks Online, they make it sound like all you got to do is sign up, enter your email address, and you're off and running. Well, it's not quite that simple. If you don't understand the processes that go into bookkeeping in general. So that is the kind of just a very, very quick rundown of QuickBooks Online. So now we will jump into QuickBooks Desktop. I'll bring, if I can get it over here. Okay, so this is QuickBooks Desktop. Again, this looks a lot more busy because there's a lot more stuff going on in here. And honestly, clients won't use 90% of this stuff, and that's totally okay. And you can actually get rid of it. I have some company files that I work with that literally only has this bottom section because all they do in their QuickBooks is payroll, or just this bottom section and this banking section because they don't invoice customers. Maybe they just, or they don't use the functionality, and it doesn't mean you have to. Just because the functionality is here doesn't mean you have to use it for QuickBooks. I mean, if you have a separate invoicing, like you use Square to invoice your customers, you don't have to also duplicate and put those invoices in here. We can just record invoices as deposits, and that's how we get the income recorded in QuickBooks. But you also do have the ability to do that, and a lot more ability, I feel like, in QuickBooks Desktop, a lot more customization. So like this is an invoice to a customer. We have a customer up here. We have the ability for classes, and these are the items that we put on an invoice. And then we can preview this over here, the invoice. And this is all customizable. We can change, we can add logos, you can add, you can move all the stuff around, we can get rid of sales tax, we can get rid of balance due, you can add a thank you note, so many options you can do here. It works basically the same. We still have a chart of accounts that this is all of everything that gets entered, has to be assigned to an account, and then there has to be a corresponding entry. So when you write a check, you have to select either an expense account or a loan account or a credit card, whatever you're paying. And the check data entry screen looks literally like a check. So this is our pay to the order of. These are our list of vendors, which we have a vendor center, which creates the database of all of these vendors. Then down below, you just select what you're paying for. Maybe we're paying for accounting fees, or we're paying for office supplies, or we're paying utilities. You have all that option down here. And with both softwares, you can split this out. So this is the reason there's so many lines here, is maybe we are paying a credit card. Well, that's not a great example. There's a couple ways to handle credit cards in QuickBooks too, but let's say you go to Walmart and you've bought office supplies, you've bought things for repairs. You can categorize those differently, where you've spent $500 at Walmart in total. Let's just see one. And then we can call office supplies were $450 of it. And then we also bought some job materials for $30, and we had bought some oil to change our own oil. So you can separate those expenses as long as in total down here, they equal the total up here to keep that balance. So let's say, and that's what is great about accounting software, is it does that kind of stuff for you. So let's say I didn't enter this and I try to save it. It says, here's my warning. It says, nope, you can't, because it's not in balance. We have to stay balanced. Accounting softwares are great about that. It doesn't let you, without data problems, record things that aren't in balance. So when we save this, so these sales forms, these form entries, these transactions that look super simple and they're user friendly. This looks like I'm just recording what I did. It's simple as that. I went to Walmart, I paid $500 for these things. What QuickBooks does in the background is it does the debits and the credits. So you don't have to know that, okay, well, I need to credit the checking account and then I debit office supplies, job materials, maintenance, and repairs. You don't have to know that, oh, I debit, wait, do I debit the checking account or do I debit the expenses? Which do I credit? Like, you don't have to know that. And that's what QuickBooks is great about, making so much simpler. And it does the same kind of thing on the customer side. So, and you can see these are grouped. This is our QuickBooks Desktop, our home screen, our home page, and they're grouped by similar transactions. So here's our vendor stuff, our customer stuff, our employee stuff, our banking over here, and our basically our setup stuff, our items, our chart of accounts, inventory, things like that. So let's just go through. We will invoice a customer, Adam's Candy Shop, and we are going to do some design for him. Quantities way over here for some reason. We have two items of design, and then we've done some gardening. 5 of those, 8. Of deck lumber. And QuickBooks does the math for us. It does the accounting in the background. And this is logical to us. It's like, okay, so this is our customer. What are we invoicing them for? It has the database of all his information, his address. If he has separate ship tos, it can record that. and then it does the sales tax for us. It also puts this into accounts receivable. So we've created this invoice, we've mailed it to our customer. So we save and close that. Then a week later, we get a check in the mail. So we can go receive payments. And we see we got our check from Adam's Candy Shop. And he wrote us a check for $698. And we see our open invoices here based on what we've selected here. So this is our customer that we got our check from. And so it says, okay, based on that customer, here are your open invoices. So you select which one to record here. And it's pretty much as simple as that. You can enter a check number. You can say whether it was cash or check, or if it was a credit or debit card. Another thing QuickBooks is really cool about is it will integrate. It has that QuickBooks payments, which is advertising right up here. The fees are very similar to like a Square. It's not, it might be a little bit more, but it does save you some accounting headache in the background. I do have a lot of clients that use that and really, really like it. Not required. You can have your own completely separate credit and debit card processing, and you can still call it credit or debit card if you want to. Or you can create, separate ones, MasterCard, if you've bartered transactions, things like that. So let's say we've received this check, and in the mail, we also got another check. See how good I am if I can find somebody else with a balance. Okay, so we also got a check from Mike, let's just say, for $180. So in the mail this week, we've got 2 checks. This was check number 565. So basically in QuickBooks, there's 2 ways to handle it. In those received payments, the way we've set it up, it sits in an undeposited funds account. This is generally how QuickBooks works. Doesn't have to work this way, but there are different options. So undeposited funds. So now we've got these 2 checks that I've got sitting on my desk, and we need to take them to the bank. We go to QuickBooks to the banking section and then record deposits. And these 2 checks that I got today, this $698 and this check from Mike. So this is what I should have sitting on my desk. My undeposited funds is physically my desk in general terms. So I'm putting both of these checks into one deposit, and I'm depositing it to my checking account. So then I can save and close this. And what this is going to do is increase the balance of my checking account. So we save and close that. Where did it go? We can go to our check register for our checking account, and we can see that deposit here. This was the deposit that I just created. This check register also does all this math stuff for us. Nothing we have to do in paper or in Excel. Saves us so much time there. And lets us run these reports so much easier. I mean, we do still have clients that bring us an Excel spreadsheet or literally stack of receipts or a shoebox full of receipts. And honestly, what we do is we use QuickBooks for even people that don't use it. Like, we have the software here. So if somebody brings me in a box of receipts and a check register, and all their bank reconciliations, I will literally go and put it into QuickBooks, because I'm so much more comfortable with that, because I can enter it. I don't have data issues when it's reconciled. I know the data I put in there is correct. I don't have formula issues if I were to put it in Excel. QuickBooks does all that kind of work for us. I can run multiple reports based on different dates. Huge advantage over a manual accounting system. So I highly recommend it. It keeps these balances, especially if the only thing you ever even do is record your checks and deposits. Still a huge advantage at QuickBooks, and totally worth the $300 that you've spent on it for 3 years. Even QuickBooks Online does the same. It's very similar and easy to use for the same kind of thing, especially simple regular bookkeeping stuff. It's great for, and highly recommended that you use an accounting software. to make all, like we talked earlier, tax season easier, reports easier, see if you're actually making money. I went to a new client last week I'd never visited before. And she called me up one day after it was actually after a chamber seminar we had done over in Florida. She had come and she said, we have no idea if we're making any money. And they literally didn't know. So they've had QuickBooks for literally 5 years and still had no idea if they were making any money. And it was because the data that was entered was not good data. So I just spent 2 hours with her and we talked about how expenses, are money going out. You use cost of goods sold for literally job expenses. Income is money you've earned, not necessarily all money that goes in a checking account. If you put your own money into it, that's not income. You don't want to pay tax on that. They were also duplicating things because they were invoicing customers, but then weren't receiving the payments on them. But then they were also making the deposits, but not linking the two transactions. So what that causes issues with, you're double counting that income. So if I were to just look at the books without anything else, I'm going to say you've made twice as much income as you actually have. And that's why accounting softwares are awesome if they're used properly. They can make worlds of difference one way or another. One more quick thing we'll just talk about, reports in QuickBooks are very similar. We have groups of reports, company reports, customer reports, specific sales reports, purchases. If you use inventory, employees are huge. That's what a lot of clients use QuickBooks for payroll only, or mainly payroll and maybe a little bit of bookkeeping on the side. These reports are grouped by similar reports. We can look at a profit and loss the same kind of way we do in QuickBooks Enterprise or QuickBooks Online. If we look at this year, and it works the same way, except instead of a link, it's just a double click. So when your cursor goes to the quick zoom, the magnifying glass with the Z in it, it means I can drill down into what makes up this number. So here's all of my design services, came from all of these invoices. For expenses, all of my insurance, we can look at all. Here's all the different payments that we've made that make up our insurance expense for this particular time period. And then at the bottom line, we can see, are we making money? Are we not making money? If this data is good, then this number is good. That's the main things about QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online without getting in very much detail at all. Of course, I know it wasn't a lot of training per se, just kind of in general terms about QuickBooks and accounting softwares and why you should use them. That's my soapbox for the day. Use an accounting software. It doesn't have to be QuickBooks. It doesn't have to be QuickBooks Online. I would just suggest something. And if you have, questions, does anybody have any questions? I didn't really discuss that before. If anybody sent any questions or anybody has any questions now, I don't know, Nicole, if we can open the phones, or did you, I don't know if we can do any text questions.
I didn't see any come in, but I also didn't say if anyone had any questions, I could share them. If people do have questions, feel free. You can type them in the chat box if you aren't comfortable asking them, or everyone can unmute themselves and ask whatever you'd like. I'll also share the recording and then the PDF presentation in our advocate tomorrow. But if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. I could just unmute everyone. And
I don't know how to start a slideshow from the middle, so I gotta click through all this. Here's where we are.
Yeah. I know nothing's coming in. And then
Okay.
also I'll share Amanda's contact information. So if you guys want to reach out directly to her or Kemper, you can do that too. So if you, like I said, if you don't feel comfortable asking the questions now, no problem. I will just share Amanda's contact information and you guys can connect with her directly.
Okay. And Nicole, I'll share the slides with you and you can post that with the video. Thanks everybody for your
That's
attendance
great.
and definitely thank you to the Chamber and Vantage Outsourcing for having us here today. I hope it was helpful. And I hope everybody has
I was gonna say, just last thing, I think since this was just a very basic kind of like an intro to QuickBooks, we are looking at, it'll probably be in the spring to do an in-person beginner and intermediate training. So if anyone is at that point and they want to sit in on like the beginner class or the intermediate, we'll have something in the spring, I believe. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that on our 2022 event. Yeah, otherwise, thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Bye.